Welcome to the FOCIS podcast, brought to you by the FOCIS Communications Committee.
Well, hello, Dr. Gray. Thank you so much for being here with us today. Why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself?
Sure. My name is Clive Gray. I'm professor of immunology at Stellenbosch University, which is in Cape Town, South Africa. I'm also very much involved with the International Union of Immunology Societies, where I'm the chair of the Education Committee. So it's really great to be here, but I can meet the chair of the FOCIS Education Committee and we can synergize our activities.
Right. Well, that sounds very great. So what would you say attracted you to the field of immunology?
I was a student in the UK, actually, many years ago now, too many to count. And I just remember that one of the lecturers we had talked about NHC restriction and epitope recognition, and I found that extraordinarily intellectually challenging. That was the first point. The second point, that at that time, there was the anti-idiotypic theory, which gives away how long ago this was, which I also found very intriguing, that an antibody could react or behave like an antigen by being the mirror image of another antibody. So that's really how I got into immunology. I thought there and then that this was an intellectually challenging field.
Right. So you said you're at Stellenbosch. What would you say is some of your proudest moments since you've been working there?
Well, before I moved to Stellenbosch, I was at the University of Cape Town. I was the chair of immunology there. I took early retirement and moved across. I think that the proudest moment for me is the formation of the Reproductive Immunology Research Consortium and getting funding by various grants, training grants and research grants, mostly through the NIH, and being able to develop this research group, which now boasts about 15, 16 people in the group.
Right. So then how did you first get involved with FOCIS?
So belonging and being part of the RUIS, there are many other people in the RUIS who are also members of FOCIS. So they encouraged me to come and belong and actually apply to be a center of excellence, which I did, and it was granted. So I'm a new director here at FOCIS of a center of excellence. So that's how I got involved. It was an encouragement from my colleagues within the RUIS who are also part of FOCIS.
All right. Well, we're happy to have you here with FOCIS
Thanks.
this year. So do you have any advice to share with someone just starting out in the field?
Yes. If I think about my own journey, what earmarked, I think for me, is persistence. You just never give up. If you have an idea, which maybe sound crazy, but a crazy idea is one that maybe not have thought about before by other people, stick to it. You may not get funding for it initially, but you can get funding for something that is more mainstream, but pursue that crazy idea because it may just be the answer to something.
That is really good advice. Thank you so much. And then to wrap up our interview, what would you say, why is autoimmune research so important?
So I am from a region of the world which is plagued by infectious diseases, HIV, tuberculosis, malaria, and often that's just to name the big three. And of course, there was COVID and there are other neglected tropical diseases. And these tend to precipitate autoimmunity by very commonly what's known as molecular mimicry, but it's not just only that, there are other factors involved. So the autoimmune responses are very, I think, underdeveloped in my region of the world, which is in sub-Saharan Africa. And we really need to put more efforts into understanding what are the precipitating factors for autoimmune disease.
All right. Well, that is very interesting. Thank you so much for taking the time to interview with us today.
My pleasure.
And now we will hear from Dr. Rabinovich, who is involved in one of our FOCIS centers of excellence.
Well, hello, Dr. Rabinovich. Thank you so much for being here with us today. Why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself for us?
Okay, my name is Gabriel Rabinovich. I am professor of immunology at the Faculty of Exact Natural Sciences at the University of Buenos Aires. I am director of the Laboratory of Glycomedicine at the Institute of Biology and Experimental Medicine in the CONICET, our Cancer Research Institute in Buenos Aires, Argentina. I am director also of the program of glycoimmunology as a FOCIS Center of Excellence.
Great, well, thank you again for being here. So what research have you conducted that you're most proud of?
Well, I'm very proud of my group. I'm very proud of our work. We have identified, like 30 years ago, a protein that plays a key role in immunoregulation, in suppressing the immune response. So we demonstrated that tumors use this protein called galectin-1 to evade the immune response, to escape and promote metastasis. We also showed that this protein is released from tumor cells when they become metastatic, and it promotes angiogenesis, it promotes blood vessels. We demonstrated that we can use this protein to suppress the immune response in autoimmune diseases, and also this protein plays a key role in fetal maternal tolerance. So we are very proud of this work that contributed to the design of novel therapeutic strategies for cancer and autoimmune diseases.
Wow, well, that sounds very exciting. So what would you say is next for you in the future of your career?
Well, we're working very hard to make this a therapy for patients with cancer and for patients with autoimmune diseases. We created last year a startup company called Galtech, Galectin Technology, which major role is to move forward to clinical therapies to generate therapeutic strategies based on an anti-galectin-1 monoclonal antibody for the treatment of patients with cancer, and also a variant of galectin-1 to selectively suppress autoimmune responses. So this is, I think, the most challenging, and I feel a lot of pleasure of doing this work because we want to see benefits in cancer patients.
Oh, well,
And also patients with autoimmune diseases.
that sounds amazing. So then to wrap up, do you have any advice to share with someone starting out in the field?
Yes, I think that for the young people, what I would say is to be resilient, to overcome the obstacles, and to survive the crisis, because I think is the best way to do science, to focus on science. And there is no separation between basic science and applied science. There is translational science. So there is only one type of science, or good science or bad science. And this is the only way to go, to mix and to work collectively, to work in groups, to work as a team, and to work with other teams and to collaborate. And the most important thing is to overcome the crisis that always appears in our lives, especially in our scientific lives.
All right. Well, thank you so much for taking the time to speak with me today.
Well, thank you very much.
And now we will hear from Dr. Hill, who is also involved in one of our focus centers of excellence.
Well, hello, Dr. Hill. Thank you so much for being here today. Why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself for us?
Thank you. So I'm Marcelo Hill. I'm MD, PhD. I'm professor and head of the immunology department at the Faculty of Medicine in the University of the Republic in Uruguay. I'm also director of the FOCIS Center of Excellence at the Institut Pasteur Montevideo in Uruguay, and CSO and founder of Ardan Pharma.
Well, thank you so much for being here. So to start off our interview, what attracts you to the field of immunology?
Well, I think it's a couple of things. On one side is the huge impact that immunology has on physiology and medicine. So it's really amazing how different physiological processes and pathological processes are impacted by immunology. And that's a very interesting field to work with. And then it's the complexity, it's so different players working at different time points, at different locations within the organism, and it's really a huge field to study.
Oh, wow, that is very exciting. So what would you say is new on the horizon for the field of immunology?
Well, one of our main challenges is to find new therapies, for different immune-related diseases. And to do so, I think that we must continue integrating omics technologies together with spatial and time dynamics within the organisms. and all that information need to be integrated into studying at molecular levels new targets and new compounds to, as I said at the beginning, to trigger to find out new medicines for patients.
Well, that is very exciting. And then to wrap up our interview, if your colleague asked you why you should join FOCIS, what would you tell them?
Well, I will tell them that it's a unique opportunity to do networking in the immunology field and to meet colleagues, world leaders in different areas of immunology. So it's very exciting for us scientists and also for students, undergraduate and postgraduate, because of the different educational tools that FOCIS has.
All right. Well, thank you so much for taking the time to interview with us today.
Thank you.